Hello, and welcome to this episode of Cooking with Sarah. Today's episode, I'm going to be teaching you how to make a Lebanese traditional dish called fattoush. Now, before we begin, first I would like to explain all the ingredients. Now, if the camera will pan over here, thank you camera, we have the first spice, it's called mint. The second one is sumac, olive oil, some onions, cilantro, tomatoes, lettuce, cucumbers, lemon juice, salt, and to top it all off, cooked bread, but that's at the very end. So hold on. So now that we have laid out all the ingredients, the next step is putting them all together to make the traditional dish called fattoush. Now the first thing is you want to get your lettuce and put it in the bowl. And then you want to add all the vegetables. Now just a quick note, you can add as many vegetables as you want. Sometimes you can add carrots. It honestly is up to you and what you prefer. And now you want to add the parsley, the cucumbers, the radishes, and then you want to add the small green onions. I don't like too many onions in mine, so I just put a little bit. And next you want to add your spices and the olive oil. So with olive oil, you want to put approximately about half a tablespoon, into your fattoush. And so, and then just spread it all over the food. And then you want to put a pinch of each spice. It ultimately depends on how much you want each one. There's no kind of portion, but it depends on what you like in your fattoush. And then next, you want to put your lemon juice. I'm just eyeballing this, but it honestly depends on how much you like of each ingredient that you want in your dish. And then with salt, you just want to put a little bit, not too much. And then afterwards, when you try it, you can add more salt if you feel like it needs to. And then you use a spoon, and then you just mix the dish as much as possible. And then if you feel like it needs a little bit more of olive oil or something like that, right now I'm noticing it needs a little bit more olive oil, so I'm just going to put a little bit more. Perfect. And honestly, this is it. It's just a bunch of healthy ingredients mixed together to make a dish that's very nutrient filled. And to top it all off, after that, we just put some cooked bread. And that's basically it on top of it. And you can eat it on top of it, or you can put the lettuce on it and eat it. It's ultimately up to you. But yeah, that's basically how you make the traditional dish called fattoush. Thank you for watching. Hey guys, welcome back to the show. For this portion of the cooking show, I wanted to discuss this traditional dish, fattoush, and how it connects to me and who I am. I have my notes here, so let's get started. So there's so many reasons why I love this dish for me. But for me, I feel like the main one is because of the memories it has. To be honest, I wasn't too familiar in knowing how to make this dish, as you can tell by my cooking. It was a little, I needed practice, right? My mom needed to kind of teach me how to do it off camera before I got started into videoing it. And I think part of this is because as I'm sitting in the kitchen watching my mom make this hundreds and hundreds of times, to be honest, I'm not really focusing on the dish, but I'm more focusing on her and the stories that she is telling as she's making the dish. I tend to get distracted by the stories, and it just goes to show the underlying message of food and how powerful food is. You know, we tend to think of food as a source of sustenance, but while that's true, it's also a source of life. It's this ability to learn about your ancestors and essentially who you are. And when thinking about this, I couldn't help but think of the piece that we read in the beginning of the semester by Warren Belasco. It was called The Food, The Key Concepts.
in which he says food identifies who we are, where we came from, and what we want to be. This dish illustrates a part of my mom's journey, and now as I listen to these stories, it's become a part of my journey too. It's providing me a deeper insight on what it means to be a Lebanese Muslim woman. I never realized how much food can have the power to shape your identity and values. And this power for food to have this ability to shape your identity and just have a huge impact on you in general can also be seen with Jonathan Foyer's grandmother. She had such a powerful story that I honestly connected with. For her, it wasn't about the food, it was about the underlying memories with the food. And through these memories, she was able to shape her values, her identity, and essentially who she is. And then she was able to pass these memories that she kept to her family, to the future generations. And so those stories remain in the family for centuries, for many years. And I think that's such a beautiful thing. So next, I wanted to talk to you all about how this dish is significant to me. Growing up, I had a hard time being able to find out who I am, my identity. And this may seem a little weird, but after taking this class and applying the readings and discussions that we had to the dishes that I've grown up with, it's allowed me to find out who I truly am. And this dish is essentially significant to me because it represents who I am when it comes to being labeled as or known as a Lebanese Muslim woman. I mean, obviously the Lebanese part is from the dish. The dish originated from Lebanon and it's quite popular. So not only is it filled with fresh and rich vegetables, but it also has these various spices that puts a whole new and exotic look on, essentially like a salad. And so Lebanon is known for that. And so when I eat this dish, I do think of my Lebanese identity. It emerges. In terms of my Muslim identity, it definitely does emerge as well, because when I eat this dish, we tend to eat it during the holy month of Ramadan. We break fast after obviously eating the date. We make this our next dish, and it's a way to provide the body with energy and nutrients. And so when I eat it or think about this dish, I definitely have memories during Ramadan in which I would eat it, and in those memories my Muslim identity emerges as well. And lastly, the dish definitely connects with my identity as a woman because it breaks the stereotypical view of how a woman should be or should act or who she is. Traditionally the woman is supposed to be or is known as someone that cooks and is kind of seen making food. This can obviously be seen by Carol Cunningham,'s work, in which she essentially says, quote, "Women have always been seen in charge of reproduction, cooking, cleaning, etc. And because they're portrayed like this, society assumes that this woman can't do anything else." And I find this very unfortunate. I don't know how to cook, and because I'm so fortunate to have an education that I focus a majority of my time on this education, that I don't really make the time to cook. And in some Lebanese households, this is looked down upon because traditionally speaking, the woman should be able to cook. She should be able to know how to make these traditional dishes. And I'm still learning, but at this age, it's supposed to be a known fact that I should be so fluent. I should know everything, about these traditional dishes and how to make them. But I don't. I'm still new. I'm learning slowly, but rather than being discouraged, this has encouraged me to study harder in school and change the way we view this stereotypical Lebanese woman, and actually woman in general. So when I look at this dish, it reminds me of my inability to cook, and it reassures me that's okay, because that's not how a woman should be portrayed. That's not how a woman should be known as. Like, the only thing that she's known, or the only thing she's capable of doing is cooking. So yeah, when I look at this traditional dish, it truly does make me think of the things that identify with myself, which are being a Lebanese Muslim woman. So, As I wrap up today's episode, I wanted to leave it on an important note. So I am currently fasting, and I'm fasting because it is the holy month of Ramadan. And this month, like every other year during Ramadan, teaches me how fortunate and blessed I am to have the food that I have. You know, as I made the fattoush, and I'm figuring out how it applies to my life, I realized that I know I'm going to eat at the end of the day. You know, I know that as soon as the sun sets, I have this opportunity to eat. But that's not a guarantee for others. You know, there's so many people that at the end of the day, they don't get to eat. And if they do, it's very, very little. And as I think about this, I can't help but think of a topic we've discussed in class known as food insecurity. Food insecurity is so prevalent in today's society that I bring it up not just so you feel grateful for the food that you get to eat at the end of the day, but because we need to make change. You know, like, everyone's aware of this, and I feel like we all have been aware of this problem. But now it's time to kind of take it a step further and figure out how we're going to make that change. Just food for thought. But yeah, thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I'll see you next time.